collection of spices which I put into a little Tupperware container and use whenever I make this Bam meatloaf, or Bam turkey loaf in this case. So the first thing is sweet paprika, 2½ tablespoons, 2 tablespoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of the following spices: freshly ground pepper, onion powder, cayenne pepper, dried oregano, and dried thyme. Mix all that up, keep it in a little Tupperware or a little Ziploc baggie, and every time you need to make this meatloaf, or if you want to use it on anything else, you'll have it ready. And at the end of the video, I'll type that out for you as the spice, and I'll put it at the bottom of the rolling credits. Okay, the first thing we do is chop up some vegetables. So I have a piece of celery that I've cut in half. I'm going to chop that. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is chop up some vegetables for our turkey meatloaf. I have a stalk of celery, which I cut in half lengthwise, and I'm going to chop it into small pieces. I also have a half of an onion. I'll do the same thing. Chop this. So that we get small enough pieces to saute. Just going to put on my frying pan really quick. Okay. And then I happen to have a orange pepper that's kind of on its last day. So I'm going to use that, but you can use red or green. The recipe calls for either red or green. But today I'm going to use the orange pepper instead. And as soon as I chop this, I'll heat up the frying pan and put a little bit of olive oil in there and just saute these vegetables so they get a little. So I chopped all the vegetables, and I'm just going to toss them into the preheated frying pan with a little bit of a spray of olive oil. And we'll cook this for just a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes or so, just to get the vegetables a little softer, so that when they cook in the meatloaf, they're not as crunchy. This step I'm just adding, it's not necessary. You don't want to do it, you want to put the vegetables in raw. So I'm using peppers, onions, and celery for this recipe, but of course you can put anything you like in the turkey meatloaf. Mushrooms, tomatoes, zucchini, whatever you have on hand works great, but I happen to really like the combination with the spices. So I'll saute this up and we'll get to the next step. So I took my 1½ pounds of turkey, and that was ground, added it into this really large bowl, and I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of the Baby Bam spice that I had read off the ingredients to you earlier. And to that I'm going to add a ½ teaspoon of salt and a ¼ teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. And I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of chopped garlic. I'm using the kind that comes in the box, but you can use fresh garlic. I'm going to use a ¼ cup of ketchup. Now notice how I measure this. There's no precise measuring on a meatloaf, turkey loaf. And then I'm going to add some breadcrumbs to make it all stick together. And I can always add more if it's a little on the watery or thin side. And then I'm going to add 1 whole egg. And we're going to mix that all together. And once we have that combined, I will add in the vegetables that we sauteed. I think it could use a little bit more ketchup. And I'll put a little more breadcrumbs. So I'd say it's roughly a ½ cup of breadcrumbs. Okay, then I had the veggies that we're sauteing for about 5 minutes. I let them cool off a little bit. Still a little warm. Mix that all together. And I'm going to use my hands on this. So I'm going to pause it, and then I'm going to pause the video, work it with my hands, wash my hands, and then show you it into the baking dish. It's all mixed together, and I have a 13 by 9 baking dish that I've covered with a little bit of cooking spray. I'm just going to dump it all in there, trying to make it like a little bit like the shape like a loaf. I'll use my hands to further shape it into an even loaf, kind of pressing it down. And just making the meatloaf shape out of it. And I kind of want it to touch both of the sides and have it pretty much like a rectangle. Let me rinse my hands really quick. Bring it over to you and show you what it looks like. So you just have a turkey loaf. Now is my favorite part. We're going to add some ketchup to the top of it. What I'm going to do is take the back of a tablespoon and just spread it out, kind of like frosting on a cake. Oh, excuse me. Okay, and now we're going to pop it into an oven for about 45 to 50 minutes into a 375-degree oven, which I preheated earlier. Set it for 45 minutes. And that's it. You'll have turkey loaf. So since this video is sort of short, I thought, well, what goes great with turkey loaf? And that would be mashed potatoes. So that'll come up right now. That'll come up next. Okay, let's check on the turkey loaf. It's coming great, coming along. And it has about 10 to 12 minutes left. So in the meantime, let's make a little quick mushroom gravy that we can put either on the turkey loaf or on top of the potatoes. And here's the turkey loaf that came out of the oven. We're going to let it rest for about 5 minutes until we cut into it. And here's the mashed potatoes in the bowl. I sprinkled some parsley on top. And I'm going to pop those in the oven for about 5 minutes just to reheat them.